everything I knit in 2024, brackets, in July. Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Lizzie and you're watching Hive Knits and Natters. So today I'm going to take you through a roundup of everything I made in 2024. Now, in the future, the timing of this video will not seem strange at all. It will just seem like another roundup video, another everything I knit in 2024. However, it is currently July 2025, and you could say that this video is completely unseasonal because these types of content are normally filmed around December or January as kind of a roundup of the previous year before people start their knitting plans for the new year, I guess. That's not how we're doing things today. For a few reasons. So I often film podcasts and kind of chat with you about what I've been making and what I'm working on, finished, etc. over the last few weeks. But I don't really have enough finished objects or things to talk about to film a podcast episode right at the minute. I'm also 32 weeks pregnant at the moment, so not much of the adult things I'm making will fit me when I finish them at the minute, and I kind of lost my adult knitting mojo at the moment. I am knitting lots of baby things, and I've done a couple of videos on that already, but I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, so I was just going to wait until I had a little bit more to chat about before filming a podcast. I also have been watching my lovely friend Laura Penrose, who is a friend, also a fellow knitting content creatory person. She has been doing a series called Vlogmas in July, and I was watching that the other day and I was just thinking about other content that is kind of seasonal and then thinking, well, why is that? I mean, Vlogmas, fair enough, you're vlogging the run up to Christmas. And then I was thinking, oh yeah, people's roundup videos are often filmed kind of at that time of year as well. And then I was thinking, well, why? They don't need to be. And I never made a roundup video in 2024 for, I'm trying to think why. I just didn't. And I thought, well, it doesn't need to be in the winter. It doesn't need to be something that's exclusively for kind of end of year or beginning of year. So I thought, why not, inspired by Laura, do everything I knit in 2024, brackets, in July. Not that it makes a blind bit of difference, but it is in fact July. I've also gained quite a few subscribers recently, which is amazing. So if you are new to the channel, hello, it's really nice to have you along. And sometimes I discover people through their kind of roundup videos, either what I knit in insert year or their plan videos, and it's a nice way to kind of get to know what they like to knit, what kind of fibres they use, what kind of finished objects they make, what kind of colours they use. And so I thought, well, for the new subscribers, I'll show you what I made in 2024 as well. So yes, those are the main reasons why we have this video being filmed today. So I really hope you enjoy it. I've got a fair few things to show you. I'm not the fastest knitter. I don't get through the most finished objects. I just kind of plod along at my own pace. I knit other people's patterns. I also design my own patterns. So today we have a mixture of things that I've knit from commercial patterns that I bought, and also things I've made from my own patterns, including kind of the design process and things like that. So I will link everything in the description below, with a link to my Ravelry page as well, if you want to check out anything else that I have designed. So I think I'll just go through things in chronological order. And yeah, sit back, relax. Hope you've got your knitting with you and maybe a beverage. and let me show you everything I made in 2024. So the first thing I'm going to show you comes with a caveat. I took everything out of my wardrobe that I wanted to show on this video, given it all a nice steam. I've hidden any loose ends, which I still haven't weaved in, which is definitely a toxic trait of mine. And then I laid everything out in the order I wanted to talk about it in, just double checked on my Instagram. I don't know exactly when I finished these things. I'm not very good at keeping Ravelry notes, but they're roughly in the right order. And then I realised that the first thing that I want to talk to you about was actually made at the end of 2023, not 2024. I just posted like I'd just finished it in 2024. But, you know, we're flexible and I'm going to talk about it anyway. So the first thing I have to show you is my Poppy Tee by Petite. Here it is. Just popped it onto a hanger so I can show you. So this is the front and this is the back. And I'll just show you a few of the closer up details. So it's a short sleeved t-shirt, as you can see, and all the ribbing on the cuffs and the neck and the hem has this little detail of the pearl bump, which I really enjoy. There it is on the neck and on the hem as well. The construction of this one is one of kind of Petite Knit's now quite signature constructions, I think, where you cast on stitches for the back and then you pick up stitches for the shoulder, and you sort of do this half contiguous, half raglan type construction. Her Leon sweater and I think the Maggie cardigan are also knit in this way, and then it's finished with like a double folded crew neck and the finishings on the cuffs, like I've said. The pattern for this is, I would say, a sport weight, light DK weight t-shirt. The suggested yarn is Cardiff cashmere, the first suggested yarn, and then a combination of a fingering weight and a mohair are the alternatives, and it's knit up by the designer at a 23 stitch gauge on 3.5mm needles. Now, I was totally off gauge with this. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know that's standard for me. I made this on 3.75mm needles and I used Drops Lima, which is a combination of wool and alpaca. Let me just double check what the weight of that yarn is. So yeah, Drops Lima certainly describes itself as a DK weight yarn, running at 100 meters in 50 grams, and it's 65% wool, 35% alpaca. So quite a bit thicker than Cardiff cashmere or a fingering and mohair combination, which explains why I was off gauge. But I actually saw somebody else use that yarn and I thought I would absolutely love to try and recreate that. And do you know, I have worn this so much. I really, really like how this shoulder construction fits on my body. And it's a lovely fit around the shoulders, but then boxy, which I really enjoy. And my yarn choice certainly makes it like a transitional piece, maybe a spring or an autumn piece, because it's definitely, although there is alpaca in here, it's a warm fibre, and I suspect my gauge is tighter than the suggested. But yeah, I absolutely rate this, and I would really, really, really like to make another one. I actually I have a parked work in progress making a second one of these, and I chose to make a black fluffy version, which is going to be amazing when it's finished, but a very different look to this. And I think I'd really like another kind of staple basic one, maybe even in like a like a cream or a white or a light grey in my wardrobe, because actually this goes with so much. I've worn it for casual, I've worn it for smart casual, I've actually worn this for work a lot. I work as a GP and I love to wear my knits as much as I can. Long sleeves, balloon sleeves aren't always practical when you're doing lots of examining people and dealing with all the things that people come to the doctors with. So something like this, which has got really short sleeves but still looks very cute, is very, you know, nice and cozy and handmade, you know, I really, really rate. So I would absolutely love to make another one of these. The colourway of this yarn, I think that's showing pretty true to true shade. I'd say it's showing slightly more purple on camera than it is in real life. It's called Ice Blue, and I wasn't sure about it when it arrived because I thought it was a little bit more purple than I realised. I'm a neutral blue and green girl. I'm not a purple or a pink or an orange or anything like that. So I was a bit unsure, but actually it's lovely. And yeah, I'm really, really, really looking forward to wearing this again when I don't have my 32-week baby bump. I could wear this now, but I think I'd look a little bit like Winnie the Pooh. So yes, I'm very looking forward to being reunited with this piece in my postpartum wardrobe. So this is the Poppy Tee by Petite Knit, and this has been made in Drops Lima in Ice Blue, and this was in the size small. So on to the first finished knit of 2024 that I actually made in 2024. So continuing on the knitted tee theme, the second piece I have to show you is this tee. So this is the Alexandra Tee by Notes and Knits, and this is a, again, short sleeved t-shirt. It's a saddle shoulder this time with these gorgeous ruffle details on the sleeves. There's the other one. And a crew neck, and you can see the saddle shoulder detail there, and it's finished with a folded stockinette hemline there. And there she is. I was actually part of, I didn't test knit this, but several years before I made it, I was contacted by Notes and Knits, the designer, and asked if I would just read over her English translation of the pattern and then she would give me a copy. So I said no problem, and then had the copy sat in my pattern library for a while. And then when I was reached out to by a yarn brand called Imagine Wool, and asked if I would like to try their merino linen, which is what this is knit up in, I thought, oh, here's an opportunity to knit that pattern I've been meaning to do for ages. And so that's what I used. The pattern is made either for a strand of merino held with a lace weight mohair, or 2 strands of fingering weight yarn held together. And I think the example given in the pattern that the designer has used is Knitting for Olive merino. Now, I have notes on this t-shirt. I think, and I'd just like to say, it is nothing whatsoever to do with the design or the designer. I think the design is absolutely stunning, but I don't wear this, and it's because I made the wrong material choices, and as a consequence, the fabric isn't how it should be, and therefore I don't wear it. It's also a little bit short because I was being annoying and trying not to break into my 3rd skein of yarn, which is just really silly because now I have it spare and this is too short. Let's talk about the choices that I made. So I think the starting point for where this went wrong was, I think instead of a gauge swatch, if I remember rightly, I just charged in and started knitting, which is normally the root of reasons why things don't fit me right or the fabric's not right. It's very unlike me. Normally for an adult garment I would do it, but I didn't for whatever reason. And because I'd seen in the pattern that there were 2 strands of fingering held together, I thought, oh, I'll hold these 2 strands. I'll hold this merino linen from Imagine Wool double as well. Now it is a fingering weight yarn. The merino linen runs at 200 meters per 50 grams. But I think the Knitting for Olive merino fingering runs at 250 meters per 50 grams. So it is a little bit thinner. And I also think I just needed to go up a needle size. I used 4mm needles for this, and I really want to try and convey, but for a yarn that is, how many percent? 30% linen, this just doesn't have drape at all. It's very stiff. I don't know if you can tell by me just wiggling this around, but it should just be so much more drapey than it is, and it isn't. And I also think the neck hole is a little bit small, and as I said, it's a little bit short. I actually thought this would ease a lot with blocking, and it didn't, which again surprised me because of the linen content. I almost thought when I was knitting it, I'm glad it's looking too small, because if it looked the right size, this would just mega stretch with blocking, but that hasn't happened. So I think probably needed to just go up a needle size, probably needed to realise that my fabric was just too dense. I can't remember the gauge or the gauge of the pattern, but even if it was, you know, on gauge, it just felt dense. But I don't think it was, because in my Instagram post I've written that I knit a size 4, which, if that's extra small, small, medium and large, you know, normally I'd knit a small for myself, so I think I must have been definitely off gauge for this one. So a real shame. I think it's beautiful to look at, and I love the colour and I love the yarn. I don't know if you can see, but close up, this yarn has got a lot of kind of strands of the linen that are visible. You can see it on the ruffle actually, yeah, like that one there, which gives it quite a rustic feel. Which I do like, but this t-shirt is just way, way, way too heavy. So one day I would love to make this again and either use, you know, the recommended yarn, make sure I'm to gauge, and just get the really beautiful drapey tee that I'm pretty sure was intended by the designer. So to recap, this is the Alexandra Tee by Notes and Knits, and I made this in merino linen by Imagine Wool. Okay, moving on. So we are moving away from the knitted t-shirts now and onto a piece that I genuinely do not know how I ever lived without. It's one of my favourite pieces I've ever knit, and yeah, I wish I had the time to make more for myself. So this is my zipper sweater light by Petite Knit. I hope you can see that properly there. So I'm sure everyone who is anyone in the knitting community knows about the zipper sweater, certainly knows about Petite Knit, and this is the light version of the zipper sweater. So you can see it's got this big ribbed collar here with the zip, oops, which obviously open. I use one of Petite Knit's zips, which I just love the finish of it. It's like this kind of brushed, bronzy kind of effect. and this is a raglan design. I've used very dark yarn, but I hope you can appreciate that. You can see the raglan line coming down here, and it's finished with pretty simple, straightforward ribbing on the sleeves and the hem. The yarn combination I have used for this to make this beautiful mild fabric, which I'm pretty proud of, I have to say. I have used, let me remember now. I used 2 strands of woolly knit merino, solid black, held together with 1 strand of knitting for olive, soft silk mohair in the colourway Dusty Blue Whale. And I really hope you can appreciate the effect that those colours have made. I absolutely love this piece. As soon as I finished it, I was wearing it tons and tons and tons straight away. It's great to throw on over jeans, or just anytime you just need that extra layer, and you know, it's a statement piece on its own. It's just absolutely amazing. This is actually the 3rd zipper sweater I have made. I have made the zipper sweater man twice, once for my dad and once for my brother, and I thought, you know what, it's about time that I had one of my own, because it's just such a staple. They wear theirs all the time, and so yes, I finally got it together and made one for myself. And yeah, it's just fab. I can't remember if I showed you the back. There it is if I didn't. Sewing the zipper in is a task, I'm not gonna lie. I've hand sewn all 3 of mine. I don't have a sewing machine, I don't know how to use a sewing machine. And to be honest, I think it's pretty neat. You essentially knit like a placket, which you then sew into place on the inside of the zip. And then you kind of, so you end up with 2 strips of knitted fabric coming down here, and then you sew the zip as like the sandwich filling in between them. And then you can see the placket comes to about here. The trick I've learned with sewing these zips in is to do the zip sewing before you block the garment. Well, no, that's not true. I would say I probably wet blocked it before I sewed the zipper in, and then I think I steam blocked it after I sewed the zipper in, just to make sure everything was laying nicely, not pulling, nice and neat. And as well, using a dark colour, which actually all 3 of my sweaters have been, is much more forgiving. So I don't think you can really see, certainly the camera's not picking up, but even if I turn this to catch the light, you can't really see the details of my sewing around the zip particularly. And you know, not my sewing, but I just think this whole garment looks super professional. Like, this looks shop bought, and I say that as the highest level of compliment that I think you could give a knitted garment. I want my pieces to look like I have bought them in a shop, and yeah, I think this definitely fulfills that brief. So let me check if I can find what size I made. I think it was the small. Yeah, so this is a small on 4.5mm needles. Like I said, with 2 strands of Merino by Woolly Knit and 1 strand of soft silk mohair. So this is kind of the heavy DK weight version of the pattern. The original zipper sweater is more of a worsted weight. I think the recommended yarn is Peruvian Highland wool or Peer Gynt with a strand of mohair. I think the difference in gauge is something like 15 stitches for the original, and I want to say about 20 for this one. That might not be 100% accurate, but yeah, just love this to pieces. Gonna get tons of wear out of it for years to come. And I've said this was all 3 so far. I'd love to make myself another one if I had the time. I think I'd make it in. I love the idea of a grey tweedy one. or like a super bright colour one, like a bright green or cobalt or something like that. So this is the Petite Knit Zipper Sweater Light, which I have made in 2 strands of woolly knit merino and 1 strand of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. So moving on again, the next thing I have to show you is the first of my own designs that I knit in 2024. Now, I actually ended up knitting 4 separate iterations of this design. So I ended up with 4 samples. I'm only going to show you 2 in today's video, otherwise I think you'd get very bored. But if you want to see the other ones, they're on my Instagram. And so I have this one I'm about to show you, and then the last one was like a festive one, so I'll show you that at the end. So this is another knitted tee. This is the first tee by me, and this was the sample that I knit kind of last, not the festive one, but I'd knit 2 other samples before I got to this one. So this is, like I said, my own design. It is a DK weight t-shirt with stockinette body, 1x1 neckband and hem ribbing with some shaping around the neck, raglan construction and half fisherman's rib sleeves, finished with this double knit cuff. It's not actually super flattering on the hanger, but I hope you can appreciate that that's what this little lady looks like. So this is knit in the fibre company Luma, which is a blend of, bear with me, merino, cotton, linen and silk. So it's a really luxurious yarn. It's absolutely beautiful. I settled on this because my first sample was in Sunde Duo, which was a little bit too drapey, particularly lacking in structure for these puffy sleeves. My second sample was in Illimani Santi, and it felt too woolly for a tee. And then this was my third sample, and you'll see my 4th one later, which is a bit of fun. But this is such a lovely blend of different fibres, including, you know, silk and the linen and cotton. So it does have a really nice drape to it. Remember when I was wiggling the Alexandra Tee around and it didn't really move? This is different, and can you see it just wants to fold and concertina, and it's just much more drapey. So this is probably the kind of fabric I'd want to get if I made another Alexandra Tee. So that is the back. My neighbours just started playing some music, which is a bit unusual for them, so I hope that you can't hear that. So I'm really sorry if you can. There's not much I can do about it. So yes, this was released in December 2024, but I finished making this one in, I think it was late summer, I want to say. Let me see when I put that on my Instagram. May. I put the testing call out in May. That's right. And then I had various issues in the test with regards to the sleeve. I think it looks really innocent and pretty here, but this sleeve caused me loads of problems, mainly working out how to write the best match for bust circumference and bicep circumference, because I didn't realise how, I knew obviously all bodies are different, but I didn't realise how some people with, you know, X bust measurement, you know, there is no ratio that people stick to in terms of their bust and bicep ratio. So it ended up being a little bit difficult to write this because there's sort of neutral to negative ease around the cuff. But anyway, if you like this t-shirt, it is available to buy as the pattern on my Ravelry store. So this is knit, like I say, it's DK weight, it's knit on 4mm needles, and my version's obviously like a summery light blue colour. but I had testers make all sorts of lovely colours. Someone made it in pure silk, in like a variegated pale pink colourway. We had hand-dyed ones. We had black, which looked very beautiful. So yes, I mean, I feel like I'm quite biased talking about this pattern because I wrote it, but I like it. So I think I'll leave that there because I do have another sample to show you. But this is the first tee by me, and this sample is knit in the Fibre Co Luma in the colourway Pearl River. Right, I have 3 more things to show you, one of which is a second sample of the first tee, so that won't take too long. So moving on to my very first experience of slipover knitting. So I decided that I really wanted a slipover, kind of a transitional piece, and I'm pleased with this. This was a stash busting exercise. I had both the yarns that I held together for this in stash already, and so I could just crack on and cast on. It was fab. So this is the Sunde Slipover, spelt S-U-N-D-E, by November Knits, and it's a very simple, basic but stylish, I feel, slipover. So you can see here it's stockinette garment with 1x1 rib, armholes, a little bit of shaping there. Again, echoes the shaping and the rib around the neck. And I actually modified this pattern to have a split hem, which isn't in the original pattern. I made this in a combination of Ecolana by We Are Knitters, and I held that with Drops Kid Silk in the colour light beige. The Ecolana was, let me tell you, raw beige. So raw beige for the kind of DK worsted weight main strand, and light beige for the mohair. And you can see that they've made a lovely, slightly heathered fabric with a little bit of fluff, but not excessive amounts. The Ecolana was actually gifted to me to make a blanket with, but I kind of wasn't enjoying that project, so I repurposed it to use for this. Not all of it by any means, I still have some left upstairs even after making this. And this knit up quite quickly because it was on 5mm needles. However, I was off gauge yet again, as I have written. So I knit a size 4, very similar to how I did for the Alexandra Tee. And again, that's probably 2 sizes up from what I would normally make. However, I'm really pleased with the fabric of this one. You can see it's nice and drapey, it's not stiff, it's not awkward. I very much enjoy wearing this one. I think, to be honest, I cast on at the back neck here, which you do, and there's actually no shoulder shaping, so it's just straight across, which is interesting, but the fit is absolutely fine. And I think I used this as a bit of a gauge swatch because it's not that much knitting in a slipover, or it feels way less than a sweater because there's no sleeves involved. And I have worn this a good handful of times. It's a great transitional piece, and I've actually worn this to work a few times because, again, no sleeves. I've worn either a t-shirt or like a blouse underneath. The only thing I would say about this is that, for me, the collar is a little bit small. So I would have envisaged this with like a nice like collared blouse underneath. And it's not that easy to get the collar to sit nicely. I think if this was just ever so slightly more relaxed, it would be easier, but it's no bother. I either wear a t-shirt or like a long sleeved t-shirt underneath here, and it looks lovely. So yeah, the actual original pattern for this is striped. I just chose to omit the stripes because I was knitting from stash. And yeah, that's probably what I've got to say about this one. So to recap, this is the Sunde Sweater by November Knits, and this is made in a combination of We Are Knitters Ecolana in raw beige and Drops Kid Silk Mohair in light beige. Okay, my penultimate garment to show you, and this is the second of my designs that I'm going to show you in this video. So towards the end of 2024, I designed a sweater called the Tao Sweater, and here she is. So this is a big, heavy garment, and it's not loving being on the hanger. You can see the sleeves drooping a little bit there. So I'm going to do my best to show you there, and then I have some B-roll and I'll bring in closer. So this is she. So the Tao Sweater is a drop shoulder construction, as you can see, with these increases along the back which kind of flow into this stockinette band along the back, and that is also continued as a faux seam down either side of the garment. Finished with a nice chunky double folded crew neck with, again, a little bit of stockinette shaping here. There are, let me see if I can shuffle this up the hanger. There are short rows in the sleeve cap to try and give that sleeve a nice shape, a nice natural shape, because sometimes in a drop shoulder, if you've just got 90-degree sleeves, we as humans are not made to be 90 degrees, and so it looks a little bit odd. And there is a split hem feature on this garment. So we have the faux seam coming down and joining into the split hem with 1x1 ribbing details. So this is heavy. I made this with Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt, which is a worsted weight yarn held with a silk mohair. So I used Kid Setter by Gerard. And yeah, this is a warm boy. All over texture in what I have dubbed the Tao stitch. Let me just take some of the weight off there. So Tao stitch is just a name I made up. It's actually based off the wrong side of this sweater. I was knitting another garment for a friend's baby. That's something else I made in 2024. And I don't even have a picture of it. Anyway, I was making the oat wrap by Knitting for Olive for a friend's baby, and this is oat stitch, and I thought, oh, I absolutely love the wrong side of that. That's really interesting. And so I designed a garment in it and flipped oat backwards, TAO, Tao stitch. It doesn't get more complicated than that. Apparently Tao, I think in Chinese, means like something really profound, like universe or infinity or something like that. That's a complete coincidence. This is just oat backwards. And it's made up of 2 rows of 1x1 rib, then you do a purl row, and then you offset your 1x1 rib by 1 stitch. Purl row, keep going basically. It's not complicated at all, but I think makes a really fun texture. Oh, I forgot to show you the faux seam is continued down the sleeve as well. So yes, this is in the colourway Sunny Lime, the Sandnes Garn Sunny Lime, and I think just lime from Gerard. And I haven't included it in this video because I finished it this year, not last year, but there is going to be a Tao Slipover coming soon as well. And again, this can be purchased from my Ravelry store if you want to make Tao Sweater yourself. The pattern was tested and then released in February of this year. It's a lot of knitting, but it's knit up on a 5mm needle. Let me double check my own pattern. Yes, a 5mm needle. So it does knit up quite quickly, and it's really, really snuggly. And for any other redheads out there, I think this is a great colour for us, you know. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about this, really. I think this is a size 4. I make my patterns with 12 sizes, ranging from a bust circumference of 75 to 160 centimetres, I want to say. So this is a size 4 of 12. It's definitely designed to be oversized. It's designed to be cozy, boxy, with that split hem there, and the front being a little bit less lengthy than the back. So this is my Tao Sweater, knit up in Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt in Sunny Lime and Gepard Kid Setter Mohair in Lime. So I have one garment which I don't have with me, which is worth an honourable mention. I made the Fern Dress. I will put a picture on the screen for my lovely friend Caroline of Caroline's Knits, who is also on YouTube and Instagram, and she had her first baby in November of last year, and a few friends got together. We did a weekend away and made it into a little baby shower for Caroline. And we decided that in secret we were going to try and make some teeny tiny versions of some knits that she had made herself, so that she could, mummy and me, match with her new little baby daughter. So Caroline had made herself the Fern Sweater by Knitting for Olive in the colourway Claret, and so I made the little dress version in the colourway Claret so that they could match. The adult version has mohair, the child version I did not knit with mohair, and I think I made it for about a year size, thinking that maybe because of the colour and the kind of occasionness of the dress, maybe it would hopefully fit her ready for Christmas this year, 2025. So yeah, just an honourable mention for that little pattern. Beautiful pattern by Knitting for Olive. I think it was my first time knitting one of their patterns, and they don't hold your hand. There was no instructions for a gauge swatch or anything like that. So I just cast on and kind of hoped for the best. And in this case it worked out. Let me just double check the size that I made. Yeah, so I did make the 12-month size, and I used the Knitting for Olive Merino in Claret, and I used 3.25mm needles. I often size up if, as I've been making a lot of baby stuff as well lately, often things are on 3mm needles, and because I'm quite a tight knitter, I very often, for Petite knit, or in fact most other designers, I just size up to 3.25mm, and it seems to work out for me okay. The Fern Dress is an all over lace design, and I actually really want a version of the either the sweater or the tee for myself. I've got quite into textured and lace knitting lately, and I think because it was a baby size as well, it was enough to kind of keep me on my toes in terms of my yarn overs and knit two togethers and whatnot. But you know, it was a limited size, so it was a really fun knitting experience, and yeah, I'd love to recreate it for myself. So that was just an honourable mention. And then the last thing I have to show you is just my fun festive version of my first tee. So here she is. She's extremely sparkly. I absolutely love this fabric that I created, and this version I knit because there was such a delay with the pattern. I was umming and ahhing about when to release it. Should I just release it in the winter? Oh, it's a t-shirt. Oh well, let's make it festive. So we did, and this is the result. So you can see there, it's exactly the same pattern. You can't see the shaping details quite as well, but you can see the half fisherman's rib sleeve and the double knit cuff there. And hopefully the raglan shaping there as well. But yes, I got so much wear out of this. I think I finished it in early December, around the time I released the pattern, and I literally wore it to like all my Christmas parties. I wore it to work things, I wore it to family things, I wore it, I just wore it loads in December, absolutely loads. And I even remember it was Christmas jumper day at work, so I thought, oh, I'll wear this again, short sleeves, breathable, very good. And then that so happened to be the day that the basic life support man came in to renew all our training, so I ended up giving a mannequin CPR in this sparkly t-shirt, which was a real highlight. So this is knit up in a combination of Gepard Wild Wool Silk, which is a beautiful yarn. I haven't come across it. You don't see it stocked many places. It's kind of a DK weight version of their Wild and Soft. So it's a combination of wool and silk. And this is the DK weight version. And I held this with a strand of Kreme Stellaris, which is what gives it the glitter. And you can see that. So I used a silver glitter in a black tee. And otherwise I did the same. I knit size 4 on 4mm needles. Let me check, was my blue version a size 4 or was it a size 3? Because this feels a bit bigger, but I don't know if it's just drapier. No, they are. I knit the same size of the pattern, but yeah, this feels a lot more airy. I guess just different yarns, different compositions. But yeah, just thought it'd be fun to show you my sparkly version of the first tee. So that is everything I had to talk about. Quite enjoyed that little whistle stop tour through 2024. Not the most, not the least, you know, a decent amount of finished objects, I think. Let me know, you know, what you think. Let me know if your style is similar to mine. Are you about as efficient as knitting as me? I think that's a bit unfair because a couple of these I've designed, and design processes take up a lot longer than just knitting from others' patterns. You know, there's a lot more consideration. So, you know, I'm not annoyed at myself for not having more finished objects, and it's been really nice to go through them all and remind myself of all the beautiful things that I'm going to be able to wear again once this baby has been born. Don't get me wrong, I have absolutely loved being pregnant. Touch wood, I've had a really easy time, I can't complain. But a lot of my things don't fit me at the minute, and it's summer, so I'm not wearing a lot of woolly garments anyway. So I'm really looking forward to giving these a new lease of life in the autumn. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sitting through me chatting about my knits from last year. Let me know what you've been working on, and like I said, if you want to purchase any of my patterns, they're in my Ravelry store, but I will link all patterns, whether or not by me or by another designer, down below. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.